Porn bans and libertarianism. Disclaimer, this video is gonna get pretty lewd. Well, this is a video I didn't think I was going to have to make, but after so many arguments with my conservative friends and family over Facebook on the subject matter and running across conservatives on Twitter as well who also want to ban porn, I thought that it only became necessary that I as a person on the right would try to make my case against the prohibition of pornography by responding to some of the arguments I've run across over the years over this. As some of you in my audience already know, one of these people is my cousin Kris, who's the only one I'm going to mention by name because he's the only one in my personal life who's willfully stepped into the spotlight on this side of the internet. Just to clarify though, I think he's changed his original position on this. He's gone from wanting to ban porn to just wanting to regulate it, which I have considerably less issue with. Go check out his channel, by the way, that's linked down below if you'll please. See if you like his content and subscribe to him. My case against porn bans. Simply put, I'm a libertarian who believes in government getting involved as little as possible, if at all, and this includes things that I will insist on calling victimless crimes. Victimless crimes being owning guns, owning property, doing drugs, having gay sex, and yes, this even includes making and watching porn. The act alone of doing these things does not inherently infringe on anyone else's rights or well-being in a direct fashion where the said gun owner, property owner, druggie, gay guy, or porn artist are responsible for. The only way that anyone could be held responsible for harming people in any of these areas is if the gun owner goes shooting other people, the drug addict forces other people to take drugs, the homosexual rapes another man, or yes, the porn artist kidnaps a woman for their piece of porn. But before any of these actions occur, no, it is victimless. And quite frankly, if you're a conservative who claims to be against big and intrusive government, you should also agree with most to all of what I just said there.
Do you watch porn?
Not that this is important, but I know for a fact that some people will be asking me this or at least wondering this in their heads because they think this is the only possible reason why I could be arguing against banning porn. But to answer the question, do I watch porn? Short answer is no. Long answer is, well, it depends on what you classify as porn. I normally classify porn as two people engaging in sexual intercourse with one another. That I don't watch. Certainly not gay porn or even straight porn. I actually get quite disgusted looking at another dude's dick. I don't even get super aroused looking at a woman's vagina. Take that as you will. I don't even have a particular affinity for lesbian on lesbian porn. What I do view are videos and pictures of curvy, beautiful women who are either scantily clad or in the nude. I've even drawn some of those types of pictures myself. And if you do consider that to be porn, then I guess, yeah, I do view porn and also masturbate to it too, unfortunately. It really depends on what you define as porn. And I guess that brings me on to my next question that I pose to porn ban advocates. What do you define as porn that needs banning? I think it's real important that we clarify what exactly we're advocating for here. So for any porn ban advocates who run across this video, I ask you this question. What exactly do you want to ban in the area of porn and how do you want to enforce such bans? Do you want to ban the production of mere pictures of women or even men who are barely dressed, if at all, in provocative poses? Do you want to ban the production of porn where it's just one person? Or do you want to just ban the production of porn where it's two people involved in sexual intercourse with one another? Do you just want to ban entire companies that produce porn? Or do you even want to go so far to ban independent solo porn makers as well? Do you want to ban even the mere possession of adult porn? Do you want to ban R-rated movies that aren't porn focused but have nudity and or sex scenes in them? Do you want to arrest anyone who gets caught making porn even in the privacy of their own home or just fine them? Or do you only want to do this to full companies that make porn and hire dozens of people for it? Please say what your exact position is down in the comments below or tell me in DMs if I sent this video to you directly that way, that is. Now let's get to some of the arguments I've seen for the prohibition of porn.
Porn is not victimless. People are trafficked and children are exploited in the process.
I've had this logic thrown at me dozens of times whenever I'd be arguing against banning porn, and it's the catalyst as to why I'm making this video. It's also a really frustrating argument because it almost seems to imply that I'm saying everything involving porn is victimless, including the sex trafficking. That's not what porn ban advocates are meaning to imply to me, but it still can't be iterated enough that I'm
not calling human trafficking victimless.
If there's a porn company utilizing trafficking or child exploitation for the production of their porn, then I'm all for investigating and shutting down those said victimizers. This includes Pornhub, as that's an example that's been thrown my way at least twice in relation to this debate. If they're really found to be compliances in human trafficking, then go ahead and shut them down. I'm not against that. But that doesn't mean that we should ban everyone else who happens to be a porn maker from making their porn and doing it without any association with children or human trafficking. But then people will say, or at least act like, human trafficking is an integral, inherent, or prerequisite part of making porn. That's not exactly how they word it, but nonetheless, we're going to run along with it. As the porn ban advocates have found and admitted to me, there are about 11,000 porn videos made per year in this country, and I found there are about 733 cases of human trafficking being involved in making porn per year. At least in 2019, that is. Links down below for the sources. That's a super minority of cases, about 7%. This isn't meant to downplay the severity of these victim situations, but this should still go to show that it's not worth banning it. A lot of you will disagree, but what that stat definitely shows is that human trafficking and child exploitation is not a required part to make porn. If it was happening a majority of the time, and definitely to a 1-to-1 ratio, then I wouldn't be saying that, but still. Human trafficking is not required to make porn in the same way that chocolate chips are required to make chocolate chip cookies. Another thing that's said to me on this point is,
we have no way of knowing.
To that I say that we have no way of knowing if child exploitative and or pedophilic action was done behind the scenes of the production of a Hollywood movie. Heck, even adult cases of sexual assault for that matter. Should we then ban all movie production and confiscate all Hollywood movies out of people's homes? I'm not meaning to entertain these kinds of conspiracy theories. You all know how skeptical I am of some of them, but still worth asking, and ultimately my rebuttal is that we shouldn't be legislating on American society based off of a lack of evidence.
If banning it saves even one life, we should do it.
Gun control advocates say the exact same thing to say why we should ban and or heavily regulate guns. Should we really make everyone else's right to do or own something suffer because a minority of sickos abuse that right in order to victimize a minority of people in society? Ultimately, I say to everyone left, right, up, and down the political spectrum that this argument should be abandoned because it's quite frankly such a garbage argument.
The porn actors end up regretting it later in life.
Consequences of their own actions. Sorry to say. I heard this argument more applied to movie actors regretting going nude in R-rated films, but it was said in the middle of a porn debate, so it's worth mentioning. Already by the get-go, this argument implies an admission that there was in fact consent given in the making of whatever product the actor/actress partook in. Should the government really impede on people's consent that they give to another party, despite there being long-term consequences? And furthermore, what should be done about two formerly married people who then go through a divorce? I know this question sounds rather strange and ridiculous, but let's admit it. A good portion of the time, a couple who went through a bitter divorce end up later on in life go regretting ever having sex with the other person. And if we should ban people from making porn because one party eventually goes regretting it, even though they initially gave consent to help make it, what should the repercussions be that the divorced couple suffers? Which party should suffer? Is it considered rape as soon as one formerly married individual regrets it? No, of course not. It'd be ridiculous. Same reason it's ridiculous to say that porn makers should have their businesses shut down and banned partially for the reasoning that actors later regret their decision to consent to make an R-rated movie or porn production.
It's racist.
This is a rather new argument for me, and I guess first of all I have to ask, How is porn racist? I was actually shared by a family member an over an hour long podcast where this science guy was interviewed and asked to explain the downsides of porn. Maybe I'll make an edited response video to it sometime, but I got so many other projects on my plate, so who knows. In that podcast, the guy being interviewed claimed that porn is racist without even so much explaining why he thinks so. But my only guess is probably because porn viewers go searching up for different types of porn based off of race. People have preferences. What do you want from people? To suppress what their true feelings are in that area? Should people also do that when they're looking for a regular old dating and eventually married relationship? If you wanted to scrape the bottom of the barrel for any kind of legitimacy in how racism applies to this, sure, it's discrimination based on race for somebody to have a racial preference and who they sexually lust for. But then I wonder, is it also sexist for homosexual people to not sexually lust for somebody of the opposite gender? I don't know where or how people get off on these flimsy accusations of bigotry on this subject. Ultimately, I have to do a hard disagree. It's not hateful based off of race or sex for that matter for people to have preferences in who they sexually lust for. And if you're really gonna insist to think this way, then you're just contributing to the watering down of the term racism and making it utterly flat out useless.
It's exploitative and or coercive.
This is an argument I've not only had implied to me over porn, but also told to me over prostitution, so I'll address this in regards of both. First, I got to ask conservatives who use these sorts of talking points to justify banning porn, do you all not realize how similar you sound to communists? Because I literally have communists and socialists telling me that labor is stolen, the workers are slaves, it's exploitative, it's coercive, and they don't really want to. Whenever they say that a business owner hiring somebody for a low-wage labor job and capitalism is bad. To both the conservatives on sex work and the communists on capitalism, who all go using this same exact logic to me, I say, no, it's not. As long as the employee or sex worker are not being kept from quitting their job, it's none of those things. The closest thing you might be correct on is it being by definition exploitative, but if that's really the case, then I guess exploitation did nothing wrong then. But it's definitely not the rest of those things that I just mentioned.
It's destructive to people's health and lives.
One thing I guess I could have and should have clarified earlier on is that I actually agree that porn, especially in large amounts, is destructive to an individual's psyche and life. In fact, I mentioned earlier how I watch porn-ish kind of stuff and even masturbated to it, and I'll admit it's not really a good thing. Me speaking personally, I'll admit that it's maybe contributed to my pickiness and what kind of woman I want to date and eventually marry. Not to mention that for the rest of the day, it sucks some of my drive and motivation out of me, and I do end up wasting time ultimately. But at the same time, if my mind is so distracted on sexy women, I need some method to just get it out of my head. But in spite of this, I still don't want it banned. But you, Mr. or Mrs. Porn Ban Advocate, do want to ban it for people's own good? Isn't there some line that conservatives use to mock liberals that mentions something about mommy government and how liberals want government to take care of and protect everybody? Well, I don't disagree with that logic, but at the same time, it seems to me, conservative porn ban advocates, that you want mommy government to protect us all from ourselves and our own desire for porn. So it's very ironic to me is all. But irony aside, should we also ban greasy fried foods, energy drinks, soda, candy, comic books, violent video games? Well, actually, no, don't answer that. Some of you actually do want to unironically ban violent video games. Or how about anything else that is deemed unhealthy and serves no purpose in life but to be a self-serving and enjoying luxury in life? Should we legislate that everybody lives like how we used to in the 18 or even 1700s? But my actual argument would be that if somebody does something or consumes something that's not healthy, they're not victimizing anybody but themselves. So therefore, why criminalize it? In fact, I say we keep it decriminalized. They're taking nobody but their own life and health into their own hands. We shouldn't be criminalizing any actions unless it victimizes another person who doesn't consent to that action.
It's a sin. Or some other argument based on religion.
If we should really make something illegal based on the Bible saying that it's a sin, should we also jail people for not being Christian? Should we jail people for committing adultery and so on and so forth? Also, what about other nations that do things based off of their religion and we don't approve of? Are they therefore in the right? Are Muslim nations in the right for executing people just for being gay, not a Muslim, or a woman breaking Sharia law? So that's all the arguments, at least the big ones, that I've come across over the years arguing for the prohibition of pornography. I obviously didn't include all of them, mostly because it either would be too wordy for me to rebut or I just plain haven't heard of said argument before and I want to keep this video relatively short. Obviously, you're not all gonna agree, but hopefully you at least understand where I'm coming from as a libertarian on this issue and how I approach most other political subjects as well. What we can agree on is that porn is unhealthy and should be discouraged, and that people who commit human trafficking or child sexualization / exploitation should be stopped no matter what reason they're committing such sick and immoral acts anyways. I just don't think a blanket ban on all porn and shutting down all porn makers is the solution. And ultimately, I don't think you should either, especially since you claim to be somebody for small government. The Dark Conservatarian has been brought to you by patrons like you. I'd like to give a special thanks to Cat Chat, The Conundrum, and Mikhail the Stray Cat for all being such loyal followers and donating to me for my work. And if you'd like to donate to this channel and all my other content creation, link to my Patreon page is down below with some patron rewards. If you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you're new to this channel, don't forget to hit subscribe and set that bell notification button to all. Hope to see you all later, and God bless.